I'm Dan Drake. This is Front Up on Visitor Network TV. Our guest today is Dual Macintyre. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Dual is here this time in his capacity as president of the Tom Nevers Civic Association, although he can talk about anything he wants, but I think that's why he's here. Music Festival was this past weekend in the rain and gloom, and I know you had some concerns about it in your official capacity. Could you share those with us?
Yes. The Music Festival, it was a first-time event for them, and we were involved in the planning process very early on. We'd expressed our concerns about noise, about traffic, about alcohol at the field, and so on. And on the good side, I have to say that the two promoters, Cynthia Dashuri and Cheryl Emery, did make every effort to work closely with us and the town departments to address our concerns and do whatever they could to alleviate that. And also on the good side, the Music Festival did bring some very fine music to the island, and a lot of people enjoyed it. But there were a lot of negatives. There were a lot on the bad side.
Sort of on the organizational,
and
logistical side.
Logistical. Put it this way: the plans were really very good, but the execution was very poor. One of the things that they had promised to do was, the promoters, had promised to do was to have a control center so that during the event we would be able to reach someone with complaints or concerns, and they'd be able to reach the person in charge on the field and take corrective action. If, for example, the noise was too high or people were parking where they weren't supposed to. That never happened. They never had a control center. They did have a number, but nobody was there to man it. And the voicemail box was filled up by early Saturday afternoon, and to the best of my knowledge was never emptied. So there was really no way to communicate any of the problems that were developing on this except by calling the police. And there were a number of calls to the police lines complaining about illegal parking. There were a couple of complaints about underage drinking at the field, and a number of other incidents that were reported. So that was the first real failure. The second was that the promoters had made every effort to bring in support people from outside, security people. And I believe they had more than 20 security people that were hired. They didn't do their job. They were supposed to post no parking signs all along Tom Nevers Road and on the side roads. They did post a few, but only for a short distance, and it's certainly not what was needed. In addition, the security people were supposed to check all of the backpacks and other bags that people were taking into the festival for alcohol, because this was a no alcohol event. They did not check those bags, and a number of people came in with alcohol, and according to a couple of observers who were there, alcohol was consumed openly during the entire festival. And as a matter of fact, the police actually ejected 3 underage drinkers who were very obnoxious from the festival itself. So that was a major problem. There were other problems in terms of the execution of the plan. The organizers had promised to have fencing put up in the area that the festival was in to channel people around so that they didn't cut across fences and things like that. Those fences were not erected, so that was not done. The signage at the festival was very poor. People really didn't know where to go to get food or to get something to drink or what have you. Now, given it was pouring rain on Saturday and the signage, even if it had been put up, might have been hard to read, but it was a number of people who were there commented on the lack of signage.
Are these problems recurring from other events at Tom Nevers? I mean, there are other ones that draw big crowds of people.
There are, but there's we learned, one of the lessons we learned on this is that there's Tom Nevers Field is really not a place to have an event that attracts a large crowd because there is very limited parking. Now, the music festival recognized that in their planning, and they set up a system where there was remote parking at the VFW and along New South Road with shuttle buses set up to bring people to the event. And I think that worked well. It provided people followed the instructions. A number of people tried to buy tickets at the last minute, and apparently it was a last-minute decision on the part of the promoters to sell tickets at the gate, which meant that people drove all the way down to the field, bought a ticket, and then had to drive back again to the remote parking spot to park, and then get on a shuttle bus and come to the festival. So that part of it didn't really work well. And I think it was because it was a last-minute decision to make those sales. But the key point is that there is not sufficient parking anywhere in that Tom Nevers area for large crowds. So if you're planning a big event there, it has to include remote parking, and then you get into another logistics problem of how many buses, what kind of shuttles, and so on and so forth.
You have events like the county fair, which draw, and you have the carnival, which is out there every year, and they draw a fair number of people.
They do.
But they don't. Do they tax the parking or not?
The county fair does charge for parking, and they do use the lot that's adjacent to the field, the housing authority lot for parking. But the parking on that lot or on the field itself, if the event is a smaller one, really requires a number of volunteers to park the cars. Because if you just allow people to go into a big field and park, they'll park all over the place, helter-skelter. As a matter of fact, the police had suggested to the music festival folks that they paint lines on the field so that people would know where to park, and then have volunteers to show or require that they park within the lines. That painting was never done, and marking was never done, and it probably didn't matter because I'm sure the rain would have washed it away anyway. But
the whole issue of the use of that facility is part of a larger issue, is it not?
It is.
In terms of it's owned by Park and Rec, operated by Park and Rec, but basically the management of it, to the extent there is any, is done by the DPW. Is that correct?
That's correct. Rolling back a little bit, when there was a Park and Rec department as well as a commission, they had the manpower to mow the lawns, do the maintenance, and what have you. And as part of the consolidation of the town departments, the manpower was transferred to the DPW, which now has the responsibility to maintain that area. And the DPW, I haven't talked with Kara Buzanowski directly about this, but my understanding was that they had permission to hire additional summer employees to flesh out the department and do the mowing and the maintenance and what have you. And she was not able to hire all the people that she was authorized, and a few of those left early. So the department was really undermanned and did not have the personnel to do a lot of the things that were needed. the fact that she wasn't able to hire the full complement is kind of troubling because
Well, it's not. It's true elsewhere. It's true. The airport hired a bunch of people who didn't show up.
yep,
So it's. I think that's a bigger question of housing and so forth. But logistically, since it's their field, the Park and Rec should have somebody who is in charge of managing the things that you've taken upon yourself in the case of Tom Nevers.
yep.
To make sure that the tenant, if you will, complies with the rules
Yes, yes.
and the agreements.
And the commission, the Park and Rec Commission, does meet, and I attended a couple of those meetings where the promoters were there and presented their plans. We had some objections, which we presented, but the commission saw fit to go ahead and give them permission, despite the objections we raised. But there was quite a bit of damage that was done to the field as a result of the festival. And certainly if Park and Rec had had their own personnel, they might have prevented cars from driving or trucks from driving on the outfield and creating ruts and things like that, or certainly been there to oversee the repair of them.
Bottom line, would you welcome the music festival back to Tom Nevers?
I would have to say that we would not welcome them until they can demonstrate that they can put on an event and address all of the issues that we have. Which brings me back to the fact that I don't think Tom Nevers is the appropriate place for a large event. The promoters this time had hoped to have 3,900 people each day during the day. Because of the weather and other factors, they didn't have anywhere near that. The best estimate was between 500 and 800 people on the first day, and maybe between 1,000 and 1,500 on the second day. But in order to make any kind of money or pay their expenses, they certainly need more than that. And even at 3,900, I'm not sure whether it's a viable
Well, again, with
event.
events like this, it depends on sponsors and everything else.
yeah.
So you can't really make that necessarily jump to that conclusion.
I don't know that, but clearly the pressure is for any of these events. They want to start small and then grow larger and larger and larger, and it's the larger that causes the Tom Nevers people to have some problems. If they want to have a small one and they can manage it well, fine, they're welcome. If they want to grow it, make it bigger, start serving alcohol and things like that, then we're against it.
Dual Macintyre, president of the Tom Nevers Civic Association, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Thank you.